Okay, so we're recording this for H5P first. And I'm going to share my screen with a PowerPoint. So the idea of H5P is that you already have PowerPoints which you use for your course, and you want to turn those PowerPoints into a video which can be used as an asynchronous teaching model. So the PowerPoint can be changed into a video, and you upload that into Moodle, and you add questions on it so that it becomes interactive. So this is a PowerPoint that I have for my integrative seminar. You already have the content. I assume you guys have used animation. If you want to do good videos, it's better to have animations. If you don't have it, it's also fine. The difference between animation and no animation is if you have a bunch of comments on a slide without animation, everything appears at once. With animation, it appears with a click of a mouse. So you can go through things one by one. Either way, it doesn't make that much difference. The part that's that would be new for you for making videos is this thing up here. It says slideshow. If you click on there, there is something called record slide. Now this is where you can speak over the PowerPoint. Okay. Now I think my sound may not be. I think it should be sharing anyway. Do you guys see the record button on the top? Okay. So you click on record, and you would basically play the slide, and as you play the slide, you can talk over it, and you can use the pen or the highlighter as you speak over it as well. So I hope this communicates properly. All right. So if I click on the click to show it, so it goes through the slide, and you can talk over it. You can explain to students what the idea is, and if I wanna highlight something, I can highlight it. You see the highlighter? Okay. So you go on. As you finish, you would click on stop. Okay. So one thing that's in terms of practicality is that each slide should have its own recording. This makes your life easier because later on, if you feel like, oh my God, I forgot to say something here, I have to redo it. It's just one slide that you have to redo. If you don't press stop, then it's the whole slideshow, and then you might end up wasting your time a lot. Once you do that, you just move on to the next slide, and you can continue doing this. So once you've recorded all of your slides, you go to File, Export, Create a Video. Okay, this, by the way, there are already videos on this on Microsoft Stream. If you go to Microsoft Stream, Julie Wong has a whole list of how to make H5P content from scratch. So she goes from PowerPoint. So all you have to do is go to Microsoft Stream and search for Julie Wong or search for e-learning. You're going to find it there. So you go for there. I think full HD would be more than enough, or even HD would be enough. It's going to take a while to compile. So when you click on that, you you can keep it open overnight or something. It gives you an MP4 file. The MP4 file you have, if you're using Moodle, you can upload it to anywhere, but it's going to be a large file usually, okay, depending on the size. Some people prefer to do like a 5-minute or shorter than that, so that's usually more manageable. My preference is either way, no matter how large your file is, you upload it to YouTube. So you'd have to create a YouTube account, and I would say use your Dawson email. You can easily use your Dawson email to create a YouTube account. You simply drag and drop the video into YouTube, and then you can have the link to share with it. This way, it doesn't overload the server, the Moodle server. You can just have the link there. So let me change my sharing to another screen. All right. Do you guys see the Moodle page? All right. So what you would do is you would add a resource, and here you have H5P. All right. So you can have descriptions if you want some instructions to students, so watch the video before, whatever. So you give the instructions, and here is where you have a bunch of options. The only one that I have tried is the interactive video, and this is the one which probably is the most popular. All right. It gives you can exit. You can add a video, and you can have a share a YouTube. This, by the way, you don't need to create your own video. Let's say there is a good topic in your field. You can easily search that. Let's say if I'm doing economics, I can search for money supply. Let's say I want to use this video or a Khan Academy one. That's also fine. So you could just copy paste the link, put it there, insert, and then you go to the second step. So you have the video there. It could be your video. You don't need to create your video. If you want to create a video, it takes a lot of time. So if you find good videos as a supplementary material, especially this is very useful. The part that's kind of critical is adding the questions on top of videos, right? So here is where you can have, let's say we, at this minute 1:15, I'm going to add, and these are all different types of questions up here. So I'm going to go with the true false, which is very simple. I would say click on pause video always, because otherwise the students could miss the question. So once the video hits that point, it's going to pause, which means that they have to go through the question. And then I would also make it a poster. Poster means it's bigger than a button. So again, they wouldn't miss it. So those are like always go with those. Then you had the question. So for instance, you can say that money supply is controlled by the central bank. And it is true in this case. For true false questions, I wouldn't let them retry because it doesn't make sense. For multiple choice, I would let them retry. Show solution button, you can keep it, you can play around with this. The part that I feel is more important is feedbacks. So if they answer correctly, what you can say is you can encourage them, and you can say, for instance, the central bank in Canada is called the Bank of Canada, for instance. Some form of a tip, some form of a wrap up. If it's wrong, you can say, oh, remember whatever, or check page, whatever. So you can give them some form of a feedback for the wrong answer. So this is, I think feedback is quite important. This part of it can take time, creating the questions. Let's finish that. It gives you the box. I would say try to make the box a bit larger. You can make it fit the whole screen or half of the screen. I would also put you could have a submit screen. There are more details. I won't get to the details. Let's see how this is going to look. So let me say money supply, the lesson title. All right. So you get, this is what the students basically see. They click on the link. They see the video. They can start playing it. And once they hit, you see this button, this shows the question, where the question is. So they could click on the button, and then they see that. So let's say if I say false, it says, it gives me the feedback, and then it shows the correct answer, and they can continue. And they can have other questions in there, right? There are other options. Some teachers limit the students' ability to scroll back and forth. I don't do that. I let the students have the freedom to go back and forth. A couple of things that I want to point out is that the H5P is not a means of assessment. This is already added to the grade book, but don't rely on it for assessment for a number of reasons. The students can reload the page and restart the video, and it's going to update their grade. So it's not really a means of grading. It's just a means of learning, not assessment. But it's good to have these questions to make sure that they are up to speed and they get some confirmation that you're on the right track. And you can also, tutor them that if you get a question wrong, then go back and watch that slide again, watch that part again. So that works. But it's not really for grading. It's more for completion, really, and the interaction. So that's the, I would say that's really the gist of H5P. If you have any questions on that, you can ask.
Yeah, how, I mean, if you have 40 students doing this, let's say, how do you find each different set of answers that they gave? I mean, you've got one, you know, screen, one PowerPoint or one YouTube clip. But each one responds to the questions.
Right. That would show in the gradebook. So
Oh,
if I,
grade book. Okay.
yeah, if I go to the gradebook, you can, it gives you a breakdown of even when it gives you the breakdown of the whole activity with all of the questions that they did.
Okay. I see. I haven't used Moodle, so yeah, I'll have to learn how to do that. Okay. Okay, I see. Yeah. And you can go in there and
Yeah, I'm trying to find,
so you can give them feedback and all that.
well, the feedback here is embedded in it. Are you talking about individual customized feedback?
Yes, yes. I
Okay.
mean, each individual does the multiple choice, right? Each individual student.
Right. So you build the feedback into the question when they do it. So that's why they receive the feedback. If you want to give more customized feedback for individual students, then you would have to do that manually. The
Yeah.
H5P is something that's already built. Once you create it, you don't need to monitor it. You don't need to.
Okay.
Yeah, you don't need to tend to it any longer.
Okay. Good.
So let me see if I can have an example of this. All right, so this is a sample of the result page for all the students. So if I click on this student, it shows me where they got. So they got 0 on the first one, they got it false, right? So this question, they got it true, it was correct, they got 1, and so forth. So you can get a whole breakdown of their activity. And it shows their score also. So you can see if somebody scored lower, you can contact them, for instance, for, I don't know, for follow-up or something.
Yeah.
Okay. Other points? Very good. Would you like to go through the questions a little bit also, Moodle quizzes? So Moodle quizzes, what I would suggest is, how many people here have not used Moodle at all?
I haven't.
You haven't used, okay. So, or if you have very minimum usage of Moodle, what I would say is make it very slow transition. So the first step would be just transfer everything that you have on Leia to Moodle. That would be enough for one term. Really, there's a lot on Moodle and it can be overwhelming, but you just do it, very, very gradually. So I would say the first step is just make the transition to Moodle. For the quizzes also, there's a lot of room for doing fancy things, but again, start it slow. So I'm going to show you the very basics that you can do. If I go back to my course, and if you here, you would have to enable editing, so it is already on, so I'm good. If I scroll down a little bit, here you see the question bank. Okay, so this is where all of the questions, quizzes, things go on here. So one thing that I would say is, first of all, you create a category. You go to the categories. You can have multiple categories of questions. So if I'm teaching economics, I could have one for demand, one for supply, one for equilibrium, and so forth, right? So here you can go down and add a category.
Oops.
I'm gonna put it up here. Let's say money supply sample. It's a good idea to have these things organized before. Sometimes people create questions quickly and then it's not organized. So what I would say is that if you can have categories from the beginning, it's a better idea. Then you go to the question part. Okay. So again, if you didn't follow, you can see it here in the question part here. And all you have to do is create a new question. So let's say true/false question or multiple choice question, and you can try all of these things. So if you are teaching mathematical courses, you can have numerical or short answer. But let's go with true/false, which is probably the most basic kind of question. And you go find the money supply activity that we had. Money. Here we go. Money supply sample, which I just created. So I'm going to say central bank, for instance. And I'm going to say the central bank Canada is called the Federal Reserve, which is false. So it is false. And then you have feedback for the response true and feedback for the response false. You can say, you know, got it. It is the Bank of Canada. And then usually for true or false, I just copy this part and put it up here for that. Just don't give them the encouragement. Here, the multiple tries don't make sense for multiple choice, and you can just save that. So you can create more questions if you want. Now in this category, I have one question. You can have more questions. Let me also show you a short answer, because I think for online teaching where plagiarism is an important consideration, I think short answer questions can be very useful for plagiarism. For true, false, and multiple choice, people can easily plagiarize. For short answer, it's not as easy. So and you have to kind of make the questions a little bit more challenging. So you can't just ask, what is the name of the central bank in Canada? Because that's going to be obvious. You have to kind of tweak it a little bit more. But let's say, I'm going to call this inflation. And I'm going to say, it's a good idea. Okay, it's a good idea for the CB to print more money. Okay. Explain your opinion about the above statement. Now, this is something that it's not as easy to cheat on. You really need to know what happens when they print money. And the right answer, I would say, is that no, because it creates inflation. And I'm going to make that 100%. You can see here, you have a lot of choice. So if the answer is partially correct, you can give them partial marks. Now, something that's kind of neat here is that the keyword here that I want them to have is inflation. So I could have the inflation word with asterisk before and after. So as long as they have inflation in there anywhere, that would be graded correctly. But put that in the second one, because the first one is what actually shows up to them when they review their answers. So for the first one, put a perfect answer. It could even be long so that they can see it. You can also put a general feedback here. That was what I was talking about. You can say, in our next class, we will talk about the power of the CB, for instance. So something that that's general, you know, and then, or instead of class, you can say lesson, and you can have, you know, partial marks here if you want, or more. And then for multiple choice, I always set the penalty to 0. This is something that I've learned over time. You could set it, set it to other than 0, but I always put it to 0. And then you create here. Just quickly, if you go back to the course, you can click on Add Activity, and you can go down to a quiz. And here's where you can add your questions there. So I'm going to stop that because we have to go back. But if you have any quick questions, we're good.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're going to be called back there. If you try this and you need question, I've tried with this a lot, so I don't mind, you know, setting up time to work with you if needed.
Also, if you need extra help, there are tutorials on the Faculty Hub. Sorry, and on the Sorry, I was just mentioning as we were leaving the breakout rooms that if you need more help with Moodle, don't hesitate to ask the pedagogical counselors in OAD, there's a form on the Faculty Hub right at the front page where you can ask for specific questions for help with specific either technologies or pedagogical help.